Welcome to the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence Storytelling Institute. Before we dive into today's impactful session, we want to ensure everyone has access to the tools they need for an exclusive experience. To guide us through the key accessibility options available during this webinar, join me in welcoming our Tilde interpreters to the stage.
Hi everyone, my name is Emily and I'm an interpreter with Tilde Language Justice Cooperative. I'm here with my co-interpreter Karin. Hola a todos, soy Emily, estoy aquí con mi co-intérprete Karin y somos de la Cooperativa de Justicia de Lenguaje TIL. So I'm just going to give some quick instructions about how to join the interpreting channels. And we do ask that everyone who does not speak both English and Spanish join the channels. Even though most of the presentations today will be in English, there may be some audience participation in Spanish, and we want to make sure that everybody is able to understand everybody. So if you don't also speak Spanish, please follow these instructions to join the English channel, which I'll give first. Voy a dar las instrucciones para el canal de inglés primero y luego voy a explicar cómo unirse al canal de español. So to join the English channel, if you're on your computer, you just click on the globe icon on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, select English, and you're good. You'll hear everything in English, and then if somebody speaks up in Spanish, you'll be able to hear the English interpretation. If you're on your phone, you go to the three dots in the corner of the screen, select language interpretation. It'll say more. So then you go to language interpretation, then English, and then you also have to click done to actually activate it. So you'll be able to hear, same thing, all of the presentations in English and English interpretation anytime someone shares in Spanish. Ahora voy a explicarlo en español. Do you all have the Spanish slides? Are you able to go to the next screen? If not, that's okay. Ok, I'll just explain it. En español, lo mismo. Si usted quiere unirse al canal de español y está en la computadora, puede ir al globo terráqueo en la esquina de la pantalla, abajo a la derecha, y elige español. Y ahí se activa la interpretación al español. Usted también puede participar en español en las partes participativas y las demás personas van a escuchar la interpretación al inglés cuando usted comparte en español. También, si está en su teléfono, hay unos pasitos más. Hay que tocarle a los tres puntitos que dicen más, luego elegir interpretación de idiomas, luego elegir español y luego picarle en finalizar para poder activar la interpretación. Y usted va a poder escuchar todo y cuando se comparte también puede compartir en español y vamos a estar proviendo la interpretación al inglés. So just a few reminders. We ask everyone to speak at a moderate pace. Please don't speak too fast. And if you are speaking too fast, we will send a note in the chat to the presenters to please slow down so we can keep up and make sure to share all of the very important information that you're sharing. And we also ask that one person speaks at a time. We can't interpret for more than one person at a time. It's usually not a problem on Zoom, but y pues en español también lo mismo, si por favor pueden hablar a un paso un poco más moderado, despacio, para que podamos compartir toda la información valiosa que usted está diciendo. Y también pedimos que solo una persona a la vez hable para que podamos interpretar para todas las personas. And with that, I'll pass it back to the presenters. Thank you so much for having us here.
Interpretation has been enabled. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. Before we start our session today, we want to remind you about some housekeeping notes. While we get the slide, this session is going to be recorded, so please be mindful of what you share in the chat. We also offer live transcription, closed captioning, and you can enable that as well. If you have any questions for the presenter, please put them in the chat or in the Q&A pod. And as you have realized, everyone's mics are muted and the cameras are turned off. But like Brecken shared in the chat, Later on, we're going to have some participation. So you can raise your hand and you'll be asked to unmute and you'll be able to share your question. And also, please reach out to us and our CV staff if you're experiencing any tech issues, and we will try our best to help you. Thank you so much and enjoy.
Celebrating 20 years of building communities, empowering women, training speakers, supporting organizations, corporations, and leading change. Please welcome to the stage your NRCDV Storytelling Institute facilitator, the award-winning consultant, executive coach, CEO, and four-time published author, Mathina James Brightful.
Thank you, Tamika, and thank you to our Yvonne and our interpreters. Welcome back, everyone. We must have done something right. You all came back today. So thank you for being here. I do want to start today very similar to how we started yesterday with a grounding exercise, right? Again, I've already gone on site visits, played with dogs, gardened. So you all probably did a number of things today before stepping into this room as well. And I want us to just take a moment to become fully present during this exercise. So take a moment to mute your notifications, let folks know that you are investing not only in yourself, but in your ability to serve them at a higher level. And as you're ready, be sure to settle yourself in your seat. Take that nice deep breath in through your nose. Exhale nice and slow through your mouth. Know that you are in a safe space. You're excited and thrilled that you're here. Take a moment to rotate your neck nice and gently. Move your head slowly and keep taking those nice deep inhales and exhales. Let your shoulders drop from your ears. And if you're able, feel your hips move in your chair. Rotate your ankles and allow yourself to feel at peace, knowing that everything you need is provided for. So take a nice inhale in through your nose, and this will be our last collective breath together in this way. Exhale through your mouth. If your eyes are closed, you're welcome to open them now. All right, and we're back. So I know I saw several pieces of feedback in the chat, including, now I'm going to go look for it because I wanted to highlight some of them. The platforms I learned yesterday was a bonus. There's so much I learned. I could not pick just one. A takeaway from yesterday, storytelling needs to be woven into the culture of an organization. Love the testimonial and the safe space to share. Looking forward to today. Thank you all so much for sharing those thoughts and feedback in the chat. I'm so glad that was needed. You are so welcome. Okay. So for day 2 of the Storytelling Institute, our intention is to dive deeply into compelling storytelling. And so today we're actually going to pick up right where we left off yesterday. Yesterday we covered modules 1 and 2. And today we're covering 2 more modules. And if you're just joining today, no stress, no worries. You do have access to your workbook, and this year the session's recorded and you'll have access to the recording. So you definitely want to go back and watch day 1 because we did go deep into the NRCDV framework and beginning to really structure that storytelling. Today's modules are focused on building rapport and making connections. We will have practice. Everyone drop a P in the chat for practice. Okay. And we're going to have application. All right. So we're going to also talk about sustainable storytelling and building a storytelling culture within your organization. We're going to close kind of where we opened regarding that storytelling culture in your organization. All right. So we're going to keep a clear kind of through line as we move forward together. with the conversation we had. We've warmed up your, as my daughter likes to remind me, she's 6, y'all. And she goes, warm up your phalanges, because we'll do a lot of chat engagement today, and we'll be coming off mute as well. Now, our team did drop for you in the chat the workbook, so you want to go ahead and grab that, so you can feel free to follow along there. Remember, we already condensed the slide content into your workbook. So there's no content on the there's no I just saw the chat. She's adorable. She is. There's no content in the slides that aren't in your workbook. They're there somewhere. It just doesn't have all the pretty pictures and all those pieces. But we wanted you to not have to worry about getting them separately, even though we'll make them available for you to share. Okay, so all your essentials are there. All right, if you are ready to jump into day 2, go ahead and let me see those emojis kind of floating. I love how they float in from the corner of the screen for me. They're like just floating. Let's see those emotions and reactions. Okay, I see them. I see the celebrations. I see the hearts. I see the claps. Now, in day 2, I do want to make sure that if you came in the door with any burning questions, that you get a chance to have them addressed at the beginning versus trying to continue to remember it as we build new content on top of what you already have. And I know I've definitely been to conferences or events, and we often get so much information that we leave thinking, oh, I wish I could have spent more time discussing this, or I'm still unclear about that. And we wanted to really curate a space where you can get those questions answered. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, they might explain it better, or if you're thinking to yourself, it might just be me, I'm the one who doesn't quite understand, don't let any of those thoughts stop you from sharing what your question is. Because if you have it, more than likely somebody else also has the same question, and we want to curate this collective learning space to amplify our impact across the field. And so that requires all of us to get in on that aha moment together. Okay, so drop your questions in the chat, and feel free, if you want to raise your hand to come off mute and share your voice into the space, please go ahead and do so. We do want to create space for that. I'll give you a moment to let your phalanges get to working. Okay. All right. I don't see any questions in the chat. Oh, I see that there is a hand up.
Yeah, it looks like Loretta's hand is raised. I'm not sure if you have a question, Loretta, and if so, you can either pop it in the chat or we can invite you to unmute. Just let us know.
All right. Thank you, Brecken. All right. So while we await our folks either raising your hand or coming off mute or dropping in the chat, which I don't see. All right. Well, let's talk about building rapport then. Let's get into it. So yesterday, and a bit in your as we were talking a bit about it yesterday and some of the pre-work you watched the video on. Anyone watched the pre-work video yesterday after session or this morning? Drop a 1 in the chat if you like. I didn't do my work yet before the institute started, but I wanted to get in on it. Yay! I'm celebrating you. Good job. So for everybody who already did their pre-work prior to yesterday, I celebrated you yesterday. And so now I'm celebrating the folks who are like, okay, let me get into this, because it does, once you hear some of the context of it was so good, right? Once you hear some of the context of the story of the institute as a whole, you're like, you see it with a new eye and new lens. Yeah, it just opens up the door for us. So if you watch that pre-work video, and we'll talk more about it shortly and break it down, then you learn that stories create a real impact on the brain. Did anybody else cry when watching that pre-work video, especially if you made it past the first like 8 or 9 minutes? I know I did. Yeah. Yes. And I've seen it, I can't countless times. Okay. Oh, and I'm like, right? I've gone and donated. I've done all the things. Okay. So it is really stories cause a chemical reaction in our body. And that's why our eyes might tear up, our heart might beat faster. You cry like a big, yeah, I'm a social crier. I don't even want you to cry alone. I'm just going, you cry and I'm crying. So we're there, right? But they really does cause us to even have those chills at times. That's what stories can do. And when we build an emotional connection, we increase trust, relatability, and vulnerability. You thought somebody was chopping an onion? No, it was just us. So yesterday we started practicing this through the framework, right? Today we're going to continue and we're going to give you more opportunities to apply it early now. And then we're going to focus on having that central figure in the story to humanize it. We talked a bit about that yesterday, that we don't deeply connect to things. Does that make sense? We may understand a thing, we get a thing, but we don't deeply connect to things. We connect to people and their emotions. So think of rapport as likability, creating trust and inviting connection. Now, before I dive any deeper, I do want to make a note on when we talk about rapport as likability and things of that nature. We have often in our work separated ourselves from the concept of likability. For example, I don't know how many of you all have worked at dual agencies, for example, where you may be addressing both domestic violence and sexual assault. And we talk about that perfect victim and how that doesn't exist, but in the minds of the general public, it does. And that they want to see somebody that fits an idea of who can be harmed, and that we justify that harm by saying, no, that's not okay. But if the person doesn't fit a type or an idea of the perfect victim, then there's pushback. And so while I recognize that that is something that often happens in our work, especially when we're working with the public, to me, that doesn't mean you get rid of the concept of rapport building. It means you deepen it. You deepen it. And we talked about this just briefly yesterday, but you find those opportunities and those moments to pull a community, to pull an audience or a listener into the conversation. And you find that thread. You find that thread that connects us, and you'll begin to see it amplify and that connection happen, right? Okay, so that's my little tidbit on that. I have these moments of stuff that just sit here after doing this for so long, that as we do this particular part of the work, I like to just name, because it's often sitting for some of us in our minds as we go through this conversation. And it's like, name it. And if something comes up for you, feel free to drop it in the chat and let me know, and we can talk through what that initial either feeling is, and potentially, not that everybody will agree with me, but potentially we can kind of talk through what that looks like, okay? Now, if you've ever watched a movie and felt emotion build, even without words, that is the power of storytelling. Now, of course, they can use music and visuals to create a reaction, right? But your words work the same way. They act as the music that moves your audience. And that's called neural mirroring. Your brain reacts to what my brain feels. So if I'm talking to you and I pause and I say, I want you to just take a breath. If your body had a reaction just now, if you felt something in your chest settling as I took the breath, and as I invited you to do the same, I want you to go ahead and throw some emojis up really quickly. You don't have to drop it in the chat. Just throw some emojis up really quickly if you felt that. Okay, I'm seeing them. Because me doing it, I see the wow faces too. Me doing it actually creates a reaction for you, and you're just listening and watching me on the screen. Maybe you might be typing on the screen over here while you're like, I'm at the institute, but I got to get this report in, because I'm not calling you out. I'm just saying, I know, I've been there, right? I want you to get that that's the power of stories, that they really create that emotional and physical response that move people to act. And today, everything we do will focus on creating that sense of connection and guiding people toward meaningful action. Because that, I believe, is truly at the core of what we're doing. That you want to drive people towards meaningful action. To me, that's advocacy. Right? If I had to boil it down, and my daughter's like, they asked her at school, I mean, again, she's 6, they asked her, well, camp technically, but anyway, point is, they asked her what her parents do for work. And she told them that her dad works at a hospital. And then she told my mom's a businesswoman. That's what she said she told them. And it cracks me up and makes me smile. But one of the things I say to her when I talk about what I've spent 20 years doing, and she said, and I'm like trying to find the words to explain to her what an advocate is and what does it mean to do this work. And of course, right, I'm an advocate. So she knows body safety, she knows body autonomy, she knows all those things, but not quite the other level of our work. And so I simply say, I get people to do, I get people to do, I encourage people to go towards meaningful action. And then we have to unpack what meaningful is. So it becomes a long thing. Right? It becomes a long thing. So let's talk about how we can actually curate that meaningful conversation and meaningful action. Okay. So I want us to have an opportunity to actually touch base on a few key components. Hold on. Let me ask Brecken to pop in real quick because I didn't get a chance to read the chat just yet. Brecken, are there some things we need to lift up from the chat?
No questions yet. Marissa did name, so grateful that you named these things. These questions are what make me skeptical of a lot of general nonprofit communications or philanthropy trainings, as I feel they don't account for these questions that are so important in domestic and sexual violence work. And then Allison shared that they find guided meditation way more relaxing than meditating on their own.
Of course, absolutely. So those are and I agree. That was one of the key components for me when I was trying to train new team members, new advocates, new educators, was that folks, the trainings and things I was finding didn't necessarily understand the nuance of what my team would be dealing with and working with. And so I wanted to find things, and then I end up having to create them on my own. So thank you for seeing and receiving that. I really do appreciate it. It makes a world of difference for me. All right, so here's what we're getting ready to get into. I would love if you would join me in understanding and getting into what we call engagement formulas, right? The engagement formulas help you show a story, not just tell it, right? They actually create a deeper connection and build rapport in a much stronger and vibrant way. Let me give this example. During Rihanna's Super Bowl halftime show, this was 2023, I think. It's one of the most, there have been several others, but it's the one that comes to my mind as I put together some of the examples I wanted to share with you all. It was during that performance. It was Rihanna's Super Bowl performance. But if you recall, it wasn't just her performance that went viral. It was Justina Miles. Justina Miles is her ASL interpreter. That was her ASL interpreter for that show. And her facial expressions and signing brought the music to life in a way that resonated so deeply. You remember that people were just talking about it and excited about it and how incredible it was. Rain just used incredible in the chat. How incredible it was. And your words and expressions should do the same when you tell stories. We had a great example. Oh, forgive me. We had a couple people share yesterday, and I think it was Katie's. That was a really good example of highlighting in the engagement formula woven into the story. Now, that's Mathina's language, right? Now, NICDV has curated an opportunity for us to bring this language home. So that's how we talk about it may not be how Katie was talking about it. So let's take a look at these 3 engagement formulas to really help you bring those stories to life in that way, okay? So if you're ready for the engagement formulas, go ahead and drop a 3 in the chat. Drop a 3 in the chat. All right. Okay, so our first engagement formula is deets over data. Okay, deets over data. So we're basically saying details over numbers. Now, I'm a big fan of using data, especially coming from my prevention background. But after years of speaking to different audiences, and I'm saying everything from kindergartners in the morning to 500 in-service military personnel in the afternoon to college students at night, all in one day, y'all. That literally was one day I did all of that. I learned that while data supports your point, it's the details that people remember. And when I say details, I'm talking about putting a face to your story. And it doesn't have to be a literal picture of someone's face. It can be the vivid and descriptive elements that bring the story to life. That's what I mean by during one of the examples we got yesterday. I don't know if this is the right name, so I'm not going to keep saying the name. But one of the examples we had yesterday, I think it was Lola and Laura that were in the story. But we got a picture of the little aspects of their life. It was like seasoning, right? It gave us a sense of who this person was outside of the harm they experienced. So that's what I mean by the vivid and descriptive elements that bring the story to life. For example, when you build a compelling story, the data support, and you might say data, have a good time, do you? Okay, I say data. It supports the narrative, but the details make it memorable. And you can give or use composites, experiences from several people combined into one story, and give that figure a simple name. I introduced a little bit of this yesterday, like Alex, Max, Angel, right? Those are names that audience can envision their own connection to. So deets over data makes your story stand out and stick, okay? So your data assists, but the details carry the emotional weight and help people remember it. I'll share some visual examples and we'll do a quick exercise on this in just a moment, okay? But our next formula is possibility multiplied by action equals momentum. Possibility multiplied by action equals momentum. People need to know that there's something they can do about what you're sharing. If it seems like a lost cause, people won't feel moved to act. They need to believe that they can make a difference. Are y'all with me on that? Think about in your own life for a second. When you feel helpless, what emotions come up for you? Drop them in the chat. When you feel helpless, I see the emojis popping up. Thank you for that. But when you feel helpless, what emotions pop up for you? Sadness, frustration, anxiety, exhaustion. Yeah. Frustration. Yeah. Decision paralysis. Absolutely. Anger, worry, depression, overwhelm, anxiety, and you stay to yourself. Absolutely. Paralysis, hopelessness. Now, when somebody says, do this and it can help us do X, when somebody invites you to take an action and they tell you what that action will produce, what do those emotions feel like? When you have a clear idea of what you can do that would make a difference. Empowering, energized, excitement, hopeful. Absolutely. Liberated, freeing, elevated, purposeful, useful, supportive, gratified, hopeful, confident. Yeah, those, see, when we think about what happens, when we think about possibility, then we learn that possibility, not guilt, drives people to act. We avoid what makes us feel bad or guilty, but we're motivated by what gives us hope or even sparks some righteous anger. So when you're crafting your story, ask yourself, is there enough detail for people to clearly see what I'm describing? Does the story show possibility and a path forward? In the NRCDV framework, this is reflected in the vision piece in particular. It highlights the possibility and then tells people how they can act, which builds momentum. Is that helpful so far? You get how the first two formulas kind of work and how you can use them to assess and process before we go into number 3? Okay, I see some thumbs up and I see some yeses. All right. So the third engagement formula, we call it into me, I see. It's a play on the word intimacy. Into me, I see is a play on the word intimacy. This formula is about creating a sense of connection. The more people feel they know about you or the situation, the more connected they feel. And speakers often share stories about their siblings or even children, for example, in order to make the connection. How many, do I have children? Drop your answer in the chat. Do I have a child or children? Drop your answer in the chat. I see the Y's and the S's. Some of you might be able to tell me, so somebody said 2 daughters. I have 1 daughter, 1 6-year-old, right? Some of you may be able to tell me, I just said it, a 6-year-old, right? Yes. Thank you. Was it Jocelyn? Jocelyn's figured out that I'm a dog mom. Oh, the 2 probably comes from the dogs. I have 2 dogs. I'm a dog mom, right? I have 2 very big dogs that are under 1 years old. Okay. They're Great Pyrenees. They're big. So you get to know things about me. And some of you who are also have pets at home, some of you who are also dog parents, I'm an aunt and a dog mom, right? You begin to you have a sense of connection to it. When I do like keynotes and things of that nature, somewhere in there, you have one too? Marissa, we have to chat. We have to chat. Okay. But some of you, when I do keynotes rather, very often, at some point, I'm probably going to have a story about my siblings. You're probably going to learn how many of them I have. There's a lot of them. I have 8. Okay. There's a lot of us. Right. So at some point, but that sense builds connection. Dawn, are you saying you have 19 sibling or a 19-year-old? Dawn, what's happening here? Dawn, I thought you said you have a dog mom. Is your dog 19? Dawn, what is the 19? Sorry, y'all. All right. Got lost. What? Yeah, okay, y'all got me beat, Dawn. Y'all got me beat. 20. 3 great grandchildren. Yeah. So that sense of connection actually matters and it ties in. For those of you who are sharing personal stories, right? Or you're creating composite stories, this formula builds trust and relatability through small but real glimpses that invite connection. Think about how you can create intimacy with the central figure in your story, whether that person is you or someone else. Intimacy increases empathy and allows the listener to see themselves reflected in the story, creating momentum and a sense of a we. It's not them. When you create intimacy in the story with the listener, it becomes a we. Now the listener's in it with you and they're advocating for your win. They're advocating for the rise. So that becomes an important component there. Oh, yes. Hey, Melanie. Woo. One day I'm going to get their 34-year-old daughter and 10-year-old grandson. Okay. 4 sons and 5 grandchildren. That shares a good sense of intimacy. So here's what I want to highlight for us. Let me just do a quick little review, okay? Formula one, who remembers? Drop it in the chat. What was formula number 1? The first one we went over. Drop it in the chat. You can use shorthand or your phalanges are warm, your fingers are warmed up, and you can just go ahead and just drop it down in there. Yes. Y'all are fabulous. Fabulous. I love the attention that we're paying to the details here. So yes, deets over data. What was formula number 2? It's a little bit longer. And if you remember formula number 3, you can go ahead and drop those in the chat as well. Formula number 2 and formula number 3. Yes, possibility multiplied by action equals momentum. Perfect. And then formula number 3 was, it was a little play on a word. Into me, I see. Great. Intimacy. Excellent. So those are our 3 formulas. I want to take us into a little bit of a case study. Okay. I have been talking about it. We've talked about our mutual cry, and that is that charity water video that we invited you all to take a look at. Okay. And some of you may have already known about Charity Water and who they are. And some of you, this may have been your first introduction to that organization. I appreciate sharing Charity Water because it is an international nonprofit. This was your first introduction to the organization? Yeah. It's an international, you're obsessed with their website. Organization that focuses on bringing clean drinking water to parts of the world without access to it or without easy access. So they mostly build wells and fountains, creating that life-changing access to clean water. And they utilize their connections to hire and employ people who live in that community rather than just bringing in folks or flying in folks from around the world, because it activates and vitalizes that community. Now, if you watched the Charity Water video, I know many of you did, I want to break down how we saw the use of their storytelling in the framework. So I want you all to just get your fingers warmed up and start dropping in the chat based on everything we remember. What are some of the things that everything you remember based on what we've talked about? What are some of the things that you saw in that film that we've been addressing? Any of the engagement formulas? For example, was there a central figure in the story? Was there a central figure in the story? Thank you, Brecken. No? Nobody remember a central figure? Okay, y'all was just typing. Okay. Yes, the founder. Absolutely. And the young girl. I love it when somebody, thank you. So let's start with the central figure of Scott, right? Scott Harrison, who is the founder of Charity Water. And I don't remember who it was. Oh, Portia, I think your name's Portia. Portia also highlights that in the story, there was a young girl that was brought in as a central figure. Children always create a connection because we all love the little people, right? So they always create a deeper connection. Other things you saw, connection to the speaker, ending on a clear call to action. Yes. Humanity of both the community and the organization. Oh, no worries. Substances of the people who wanted to get involved in the movement. Absolutely. So you saw in the video that Scott actually humanizes, so the video itself humanizes Scott as he talks about himself. We meet his family, we see him with his children, and this builds trust and connection right away. And we get a sense of some conflict. If you remember what the conflict was, drop it in the chat. But very early on, I'm talking about the first 8 minutes, you see conflict arise in the story that's being told. You got the life that he's a party animal, he was a promoter. Before we even got there, he gives us a sense and grounds us in his childhood conflict where there was a gas leak. Yes, Josephine got it. And Allison. Sorry, Allison, I didn't see it at first. Right? Where there was that gas leak and his mom gets very, very sick. And we learn how that shifted his childhood. Then we get that forecast into his adult life. He becomes a club promoter. He steps into a lifestyle, but we quickly learn that lifestyle felt very empty for him. And we noticed that in how the music, right? They're using music to really build the video and the tension. And if you're creating video, right, that's always a plus, right? Using that. So we talked about that emotional connection and we were building. Next thing you know, I'm talking about the first 8 minutes, the screen goes black and it signals this turning point. And he begins to talk about how he's applying to volunteer and he gets denied, but finally he's paying to volunteer and travel with an organization. And then so now we've got some details, but then the data comes in. And I don't know if you remember the data points from the video. If you just watched it yesterday, then you can feel free to drop it in the chat. I think seeing both the good and bad builds trust. Yes. Like we see him as a complex character who is both likable and unlikable, rather than having him be the hero of the story. Somebody was paying attention yesterday, because guess what? Even though he's a central figure, he's actually not the hero of the story. He builds the story to centralize the organization in this case and the ultimate people that they serve as the real heroes of the story, which is what we want to see. So you begin to see data points kind of roll in, because many of us, we've got this information, we've got this data, and sometimes it does impact people. But does it move people? Usually not by itself. So in this video, we watch them incorporate data. So 42% of people don't trust charities. They start talking about that early on. Why? Because they know the call to action at the end is to, hey, trust us, give us your money, we're doing good work with it. 1 in 10 people, what was it? 1 in 10 people lack clean water. Their actual cause, getting people clean water. 5,000 people showed up to see doctors in one day. Need. That particular statistic speaks to the fact that there are people who are getting sicker just because they don't have access to clean water. So you probably remember the details, but you don't remember the exact data. So that's deets over data in action. Now, we hear in the film about people carrying this 40-pound jerry cans, the community struggling without health care, and those images stay with us. Then yes, he threw a birthday party and raised $15,000 and started funding clean water projects. So next we're seeing the change. Remember, NRC, change. Communities are receiving wells and safe water access. Then in the video, they talk about the difference. And that's when that young girl comes in. So they start sharing in the video the personal stories of supporters, like young Max and Rachel, who raise money in creative ways. And then their action shows what's possible and inspires us to join in with them. And finally, we reach the vision part. There's that very clear call to action where Scott invites viewers to become monthly givers, to subscribe to clean water through the spring program. So the structure that follows our framework very beautifully, they name the harm: lack of clean water, personal crisis, all those things, group crisis, community crisis. And then the response: they started Charity Water. What did they do? What was the change? What was the change that happened for those communities? Those communities are now lives are transformed, because not only did they build the wells, but now those communities have access to clean, clear drinking water. Jobs came into play, creating that access for everyone. That's right, the clean water. And then the D for the difference. Now they're talking about, and here's how you did it. You donated your birthdays, right? So the supporters' impact is clearly delineated. And then there's the vision. Please continue to do that. We want more of you to donate your birthdays, your Christmas gifts, your bar mitzvahs, whatever it is. Join us as a monthly supporter. So there was a very clean call to action. All right? Okay. So if you didn't watch it, do you want to watch it now? Do you want to watch the video now if you didn't watch it before? So it is a really good example of the formulas we've been talking about and the framework we've been highlighting, and how that framework carries us forward. So I really want you to focus less on the fact that it's a polished video and more on how they structured the story, because you can apply those same concepts to your own work no matter the format. Okay? If this breakdown helps you see how to use a framework, let me know in the chat. Was this helpful? Did it help you understand visually a little bit more how to break down the framework? Okay, I'm seeing the yeses. I'm seeing the yeses. Okay, excellent. All right, so believe it or not, we're getting ready to take a very quick break, 5 or 6 minutes, okay? We wanted you to be able to stretch, move your body around, stand up, grab your smoothie, your tea, your coffee, your drink, your water, and come back here in about 6 minutes. The team will let me know if I'm giving y'all the wrong time. Listen to what their timing is, okay? So let's go ahead and let's get ready for that break.
We hope you're enjoying the 2025 NRCDV Storytelling Institute. It's now time for a 5-minute break. Join us back here in just a few moments at 12:56 p.m. That's 12:56 p.m. Join us back here after the break. We hope you are enjoying the 2025 NRCDV Storytelling Institute. We're now back returning from the break. It's now time to return back to the session in progress. Please welcome back your facilitator, Medina James Brightful.
Thank you. I see the request for a little bit of a longer break. I've got you. We'll make sure that we work that in, which means Mathana not ad-libbing a lot. So as we jump back in from that quick break, one question that often comes up when we're preparing to share a story is, I don't want my story to be all about me. So I want you to rest easy. If you try to tell everyone's story at once, you end up telling no one's story well. And it's key to show that while your story is one version of an experience, it often represents many others. You heard me say yesterday, I may stand as one, but I come as 10,000. This reminds us that while you're sharing your personal perspective, and you're also carrying the voices and experiences of many. The work we do is often about creating safety and connection, not only for ourselves, but for others. And so we don't want us to fall into any stereotypes of a single story, because we know the reality is that there's simply so many. As one person, I can tell you a story, and it's only one aspect of who I am. So many of the stories we share, and feel free to include this in your stories, aren't the whole story. It's an introduction and an invitation into the intimacy with someone's life. And there's no way to know the full scope or story of that person's life unless we walk it with them fully. And even then, we only get such a small part. I want you to take a moment, and I want you to breathe that in. I think it's important for us to name that. It's the thing that comes up the most, I feel. I feel it, and I know my clients have felt it too, when we talk about including a central figure in a story. That's one of the fears that come up. But this is just simply what I found to be true. Thank you. I see those hearts, and I see the comments in the chat. All right. Let's talk about activating the senses. Let's dive back into some of the strategies and techniques. Today, the focus of the activities that you're doing and the content you're hearing is going to help us grow in our storytelling. And when we activate the senses, we deepen empathy and connection. Not everyone experiences or uses all senses in the same way. So we want to engage as many as possible when we share stories. If someone is blind and they can't necessarily see something you're sharing, the way you describe the story or the experience helps them receive it. The way you describe tactile portions of it, the way you talk about it. The same thing if someone is deaf. The same thing if someone may have some other experience to their life that makes it a little bit different how they receive and experience information, right? So we want to create as many access points as possible. And we can do this in some simple ways, often through the language we use to describe something. So I'm going to guide you through an exercise, and I want to help your audience, and I want you to help your audience feel your story just using your words. So we'll practice adding some sensory details, which also helps connect with different learning styles. All right. So everybody is familiar with rain, right? The stuff that falls from the sky. We've all seen or experienced it in some way. If you have, drop an R in the chat. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm just checking, making sure. So we've all experienced or felt it in some way. On the screen right now, for Washington, of course, for instance. All right. So on your screen right now, I'm going to describe it if you, for any reason, can't see the screen. And I'm not going to describe it alone. You are going to help me with this. But on the screen is an image. And we're going to play a quick little game, and we're going to use the chat really, really heavily to activate our senses and describe what we're seeing. And this is going to be particularly important because I'm going to read out what you write. So if someone can't see the screen for any reason and they're listening to our conversation, it becomes more and more important, right? So on the screen is this image, and in this image there appears to be, or what appears to be, rain. Some trees, there's a walkway, and a bit of sunshine mixed into this natural landscape. I would love for us to first think about hearing, and I want you to use words that are hearing words to describe rain. Just drop them in the chat. If you want to describe what rain sounds like, drop them in the chat. I see pitter patter, plop, soothing, crip, water dripping off the leaves. Oh, crisp, crisp, splashing, gush, downpour. Does look like a downpour. Lovely. Is that a walkway or a river? I don't know. Every time I look at it, I feel like it's a walkway, but it could be a river, depending on what, it could be. Dripping, the thump of hitting the ground, tapping. Oh yeah, we're gonna get to smell in a second. We're gonna get to smell in a second. Peaceful. So those are some of the words that are coming up. Now let's move to sight. We're gonna do all of the senses. Let's move to sight. When you see rain, when you're looking at rain, use some sight words to describe rain. Wet. Okay. Falling water, sheets of rain, big drops of water. Bright, clear, glare, streams, puddles, clear, particles of moisture. Droplets, that's a new one. I've never seen someone say particles of moisture. Silvery, translucent droplets. Female rain versus male rain, each has its own sensory. Let's talk more about that. Streams, walking rain, confetti, drizzle, transparent streams of water nurturing the earth. All right, now let's talk about touch. Let's talk about touch. One of my favorite words that describe how rain looks, though, is glistening. That's one of my favorite ones, by the way. Just adding it to the mix. So let's talk about taste. Let's talk about, no, touch, sorry, we're on touch. Let's talk about touch, wet, right? Okay, how does rain feel? How does rain feel? Refreshing, cold, cleansing. It stings. It's a good one. Warm, heavy. Somebody's been to a Caribbean island recently. That's definitely how I would describe rain in the Caribbean. Warm. Hard. It clings to your skin. What about damp? Prickly. Messes up my hair. All right, prickly. Overwhelming. Okay, let's do taste. What words would you use to describe the taste of rain? What comes to mind? Dirty. All right. Earthy. Yeah. Refreshing. Crisp, clean, fresh. Metallic. Okay. Convoluted. Calm. Mineral. I feel like I missed a few. Okay, well. Okay. All right, here's our last one. What does rain smell like to you? What does rain smell like to you? Smell wet dogs. Refreshing, renewal, the ozone smell. The ozone smell? I have no idea what that one is. Humid, hot summer, earthy, sometimes mildew, wet, dirt, yeah. Cut grass, change, earthy. Yeah, earthy comes up quite a bit when we talk about this one. This exercise shows how we can use words to activate multiple senses and bring an experience to life. Okay. Now, was this helpful, you all, to kind of see how language can activate a sense of connection or even deepen how your audience feels your story? It smells like rain, but it's actually the heat evaporation from cement. Okay. All right. So, and I see some yeses filling in the chat. I see those yeses filling in the chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I see the hearts. Okay. Now, our intention here is to just prime our thoughts and our thinking to how we can really amplify the stories we're telling and just being a bit more curious, a bit more thoughtful about how we actually use words to share the story. I want us to take a look at another example. And I want to show you the difference between using data alone versus using details plus data, deets over data, to describe a situation. So here we have two examples. Example A, the global pet insurance market was valued at $5.7 billion in 2018. The global market will reach $10.2 billion in 2025. That's example A. Here's example B. It's official. We've gone poodle crazy. By 2025, pet owners will spend over $10 billion worldwide to keep their pups healthy. A and B. Which one feels more compelling to you, A or B? Drop it in the chat. I see a lot of B's. I see a lot of B's. Tell me why. Tell me why. Because do they overall say the same thing? They use power words. It sounds more interesting. It's more memorable. Yeah. When I first started doing this training, I didn't have pets and certainly didn't have any dogs. Now I'm like, yeah, this statistic sounds about right. It connects to the feeling of caring for your pets, right? The love of pets is more visual. It's thought-provoking language. People are taking actions, and who doesn't love pets? The words are more interesting. They catch my attention. It centers care and not profit. There are people, pet owners mentioned, rather than impersonal forces. Somebody save that line for the next training. Impersonal forces. The things versus the people, right? Deets over data. Yeah. So we're doing nothing else here. And if we're doing nothing else here, we're cementing that details over data will always be more compelling. It's not that we eliminate data. B still gives us data points. It tells more of a story. Exactly, right? We went over those 5 components that a story needs. And you've got that in a sentence, right? So it tells us that in 2025, that pet owners will spend over $10 billion worldwide. But the vivid language, as you all named in the chat, brings it to life. And imagine if this were a social media post. Which one would you stop to read? And better yet, which one would you share? Which one would you share? B. B. And you're probably gonna share it to that person that you're like, yeah, this is you. This is you contributing to that 10 billion. Because you know that dog did not need a raincoat and shoes. But the point is that when people and when people might not believe your story, the data can support it. Like, hey, you don't believe me, but look at these data points. It's happening to people across the world. But it should never just stand alone. The story leads and the data supports. Pups need all the things. That's what makes storytelling really resonate. Oh yeah, our groomer put little what do you call those things? Bandanas around little puppies' necks. And I say puppy, but one day I'll show y'all the picture. They're huge, right? They're like they're each over 60, 65 pounds. So there's a lot going on there. But yeah, our groomer also believes that pets need all the things. No, my dogs do not have raincoats and shoes. They do not. They would knock those things off and chew them up in 2.5 seconds. But anyway, okay, so here's what we're gonna do, okay? With all of this in mind, our engagement formulas, the examples, the framework, you should mind us, the whole wardrobe. I believe you, Jocelyn. What else can we do? I do want us to take a look at a few examples together. So first we had Charity watered the video we watched. Now I would like for us to look at this Charity water social media post that they created, okay? And it's an older one because I didn't feel like going to find new ones, but they are consistent. And I want you to, we're gonna go ahead and play the video, and then I want us to kind of come back and unpack it a little bit. All right.
أنشتي بحكارة الله بقى مالت أنا تاي يسمع الموسيقى خزي بتاع مالت جينا خز ليس رحنا مخنا بقى جين ما يكوز ثلث حبس كلهم خلوا جروا أنت وسيكا وكونتلو هذا الجبل أكل بالماء الصرف بقيت معنا طيب ما يلا بلي لبوتا أنا نخرج.
Yeah, I think we pretty much watched the whole thing. All right. So what do you see happening with this particular social media post? What do you see happening with this social media post? What are they inviting people to do, if anything? Let me drop those in the chat. To care, to be a part of, to enjoy fresh water, how they engage with their community, right? The whole community. They showing how they're doing it, advice to the space. Be aware of the need and have their audience empathize. Absolutely. Because in this social media post that they created, they're inviting people to do exactly that, to support their work. They're highlighting the impact of joining their giving community. And as you watch and you think about the framework, can you name the harm? If you can name the harm, if you saw it be mentioned, without spending a lot of time, that was a social media post, it was short. If you see them name the harm, drop an H in the chat. If you saw the harm being named, drop an H in the chat. If you didn't catch it or didn't see it or what have you, don't feel led to respond. And did you see response? Did you see them talking about what they did as a result? Drop an R in the chat if you saw it. Yeah. Okay. And did they describe the change and the difference? Right? The change, what happened as a result of what they did. The difference being what difference the listener made in what happened. And was their call to action? Was their vision? Drop A. If you saw any of those C, D, or V, drop them in the chat. Yeah. The one thing they definitely do is they make that V real clear. They're like, this is what we need you to do, please. They definitely make that very clear. Okay. Can you all still hear me? My screen decided to give up the ghost. So there it is. It's back. Okay, good. My screen was like, and we're not talking to you anymore. All right, it's back. Thank you. Now, let's go ahead and switch from NRCDV. Let's switch to NRCDV from Charity Water. And let's take a look at a social media post from NRCDV, and let's ask ourselves how we can use the framework with this social media post as well. Okay, the social media post says, every time I have a need that requires a big answer with several resources, I reach out to the TA team at NRCDV. I always receive a thorough answer with high quality resources. And any of us that are technical assistant providers, we're like, because, oh, sorry, my camera decided to move on us. But we're like, yes, that's exactly what we want. That's exactly what we want to hear, right? And the caption that Giving Tuesdays around the corner this year, help us make an impact beyond the front lines. Our training, technical assistance, and resources empower advocates and DV organizations on the front lines to do their work better, ensuring that more survivors find safety and support. And there's a link to join. Yes. Love the TA team. Shout out, shout out, shout out. Okay. When we think about our NRCDV framework, right? When we think about the storytelling frameworks we have here, even with data heavy topics, you transform how people engage. So is there anything we could do with this social media post, for example, to center some of the strategies and tools that we've been we've been practicing and helping us understand how to implement it in various ways? Go ahead and drop your thoughts in the chat. If you have a need that requires a big answer like the person in the quote, you can email so on and so forth. Yep, that's one way. Is there an opportunity to, even if it's create more intimacy through statements like no advocate can do this alone? So that's one way of making that sense of connection. And we have a little bit of it when it talks about ensuring that more survivors find safety and support front lines and doing their work. And then when we think about a central figure, it says TA recipient. Now I know, right? Because again, working on a national on a national level and even a statewide level, we can't always put a person's name, but can you curate even the role, shelter advocate, those types of things to centralize some more intimacy, connection, and those pieces being involved there, right? The change is there, the difference is there, the call to action is there, because by donating during Giving Tuesday, those pieces are all there. So even as we practice how to implement these strategies, we want y'all to be able to see that we're not asking for perfection, we're asking for progress. And that by implementing these strategies and doing this work, we really can curate an opportunity to deepen our connection to the full ecosystem, the full community that's connected to us, our clients, our partners, and ultimately the survivors that we all serve. All righty. I am ready. And let me just check in with the team. Yeah. So here's what we're getting ready to do. The vital work our team does cannot happen without the support of our community. Please consider contributing this Giving Tuesday. Making the ask even clearer. Love that. Is it Hayden? Love it. Love it, love it, love it. So we want to make sure that you have some hands-on practice time. I really want you to activate your learning by working on your story, focusing on either adding more details over the data, right? Or incorporating some sensory language. So we want you to choose one, not all of it. Don't try and put everything on at the same time. But just think about what one area it is that you want to apply. Either apply an engagement formula or add more sensory storytelling to enhance your message. We want to start with about 7 minutes, 6 or 7 minutes, right, for you to work on revising your story a bit. Remember, the story has 5 key components. Start dropping them in the chat. Start dropping them in the chat. Reminding ourselves, what are those 5 key components? Okay? Because if you're feeling overwhelmed or you're trying to think of everything, please don't. Please don't. Just focus on one area. Choose like the engagement formula or sensory details. Those are the things that we talk through today. Okay. If you're like Mathina, I worked on X yesterday when I was working on the framework. I feel I still need some support. Go back into the framework and spend some time there. That's okay too. We just want you to think about what you've learned already this morning and look at applying that to your learning. All right. Yes. So character, conflict, plot. 2 more. 2 more. Think about where it's happening and what happens at the end. So resolution as well as setting. Yes, you got it. You got it, Kayla. Those 2. So as you look at your stories, and remember, history is a recitation of what has happened. It's a recitation of the facts usually. So that's history. History doesn't have to include a plot. It doesn't have to include a character. It doesn't even have to include conflict, let alone setting or resolution. A message can be galvanizing. A message can sound really good. A message can make very strong, powerful, clear points, but it's not a story if it doesn't have those other components. Okay. And my ask is that you be clear on what you're saying. You're like, Mathina, I don't want to write a story. I only want to deliver a powerful, clear message. Okay. Okay. But I just need you to be clear on what you're actually doing. And my ask is that you work on a story craft. Okay. All right. Do we have any questions before we take some time to work on those stories? Any questions before we take some time to work on our stories? Because when you come back, we're going to invite you to the stage. We usually can do about, I don't know, team. How many do we usually get? Probably about 4, maybe. 3 or 4 folks where we do what we kind of saw us do yesterday, where you get a chance to share. We'll do some role play, and then you get some live feedback from me. And we're going to have some team members come up to support us as well, to be our cheer squad, as well as offering some additional support. Okay. All right. I don't see any questions. Okay. I don't see any questions. So let's go ahead. Let's get to working. We'll take about 6 or 7 minutes, whatever the team says. And then when we come back, can I get 3 people who'd be willing to really share? Okay. All right. No questions? Okay. Let's go ahead. Let's take that break time and let's start working on refining our stories. Let's take 6 minutes and we'll be right back. Okay. Let's start wrapping up that thought. Let's start wrapping up that thought. Next, we're going to take this a step further. I would love if you're like, I'm ready, or even if you're like, I am so not ready, I am super nervous. You don't have to be on camera if you don't want to. Okay. But I'm gonna do it anyway. All right. If you got that kind of energy, go ahead and raise your hand. The team will see your hand there and invite you when it's time for you to unmute, and the team will let us know. Will let me know who's up first and so on. So we'll kind of do it that way. Now, as we prepare to share your story, I want you to imagine that you're presenting this story to an internal or external audience, but maybe you're presenting to your board, you're presenting to a funder or even a community group. I'm going to ask those of you who come on stage that as you come up, if you raise your hand, you're going to be on stage and you're going to act as the audience. Okay. And if you desire to give some feedback, you certainly can. Okay. Tell the speaker how the story resonated with you. And then I usually let you all share first, and then I kind of close out with feedback on the story. Okay. First, we do have you all take those first few minutes to work on your story and do the refining work. But as things are coming, feel free to please let us know and drop questions in the chat with, well, how do I work through this part? Or I'm unclear about this. And then we'll do it that way. Now, for everyone coming to the stage to share your story. So everybody in the listening audience, all 70 plus of us, if you're in the audience and you're thinking about the feedback as it applies to your own story, feel free to drop those questions in the chat. When you're on the stage and it's your turn to share, try and share it in 2 or so minutes. Somebody asked me about that yesterday, a 2 to 3 minute version. So if you want to come on stage and practice, we can practice on working on the 2-minute version of your story. But so yes, I want you to come on stage and take about 2 minutes or so, okay? Okay. Tim, you are going to go first. We're going to promote you up as a panelist so that you can share. Okay. Welcome, welcome. Okay. And as you prepare to share, those of us that are listening, so can I get like 2 more people to come up on stage so that we could have an audience for Tim and anyone else willing to share? Tim, let us know, and everybody else who comes on stage, if your audience, if you're thinking about this as, hey, it's some board or staff members that I'm talking to that are more internal, or if it's external, like funders or community members that you're speaking to, so that we know what kind of role we're actually playing here. And then go straight into your story. You don't have to do any more like structure or setup. You can go straight into that story, and then we'll give you that feedback on whether we hear the story structure in like the framework, engagement formulas, things of that nature. Okay. And audience members, you all can, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so this button here, I'm ready to go.
You're ready to go? Okay, great. And again, audience members, feel free to drop it in the chat as well. Okay. Alrighty, Tim, you let us know. I didn't hear if you said it. Please say it again. I'm so sorry. Is your audience internal, external?
Brian and I met 35 years ago at the state capitol.
Tim, I'm having a lot of trouble hearing you. It's a little muffled. Want to try that again? Yeah. And Tim, I know you probably muted yourself as you make some adjustments. We can try having you share out one more time, and if not, then we can try the chat or some other method so that we can at least get you that feedback on your story. Sound issues. Okay, understood. Understood. Thank you for being willing to share. We appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. A few others. We've allotted a significant amount of time here so that we could really help support you and the story you're telling. I know I've been to several events and I'm like, please, speaker, can I talk to you for a second? And instead of being in line with 50 other people wanted to talk to them at the end of the session, we wanted to curate the opportunity for you to get some of that live feedback and on-the-spot coaching right now. Yay, Katie! I share a donor appeal. It's not another story, but there is a short video included if you just want to show something. Yeah, so in the video, there's the appeal, or you're gonna share the appeal and then talk about come on, Katie, let's talk it through. What you got? You are so welcome. So welcome.
Hi.
Yeah,
I feel
hey,
like I'm
Katie.
a big old hog. I'm like, well, I'll just step in if nobody wants to share. So I have a little, it's just an email, a donor appeal, just short email, but there's a video that's attached. I'm not sure how to get that to you. If I can drop a link into the chat. Do you know if I can do that?
Sure, you can drop a link in the chat and then the team will let us know if they can manage to pull it and show it and all those things.
Okay, cool. Give me just a sec.
Yeah. I have no idea, and they're gonna figure out if they can make it work. But what is the saying? Nothing beats a failure but a try. And we'll get that going. I'm gonna move you off to my other screen so I can look this way. Hi. Let's see your faces, or at least your names. All right. As Katie is pulling that up, thank you, Katie. Is there anyone else also who's raising their hand so we can just get you to the stage and then we can support you as we complete our conversation with Katie? And then you'll be right there and we'll be ready to roll. This is my quietest year. Y'all are like, I don't want to talk about it, Mathina. Just tell me things. We don't want to actually practice with you. Okay, so I see the team having a conversation about Toby laughing at me. Having a conversation about whether or not we can get Katie's video potentially to play. So we're going to continue to work through that. Thank you, Christina. But I promise, Christina, there's nothing wrong that you can do. You can just, as you're working through it, as you're workshopping it, we're happy to offer that support to you as well. Katie, while they're working on that, oh, you're dropping it in the chat. Okay, I see it. Okay, let's see here. I love y'all too. I do. See? Okay, I know we're getting the video up, so I'm going to read out what Katie dropped in the chat as the email. Oh, you're welcome. And then the team's going to let me know when they've got the video up and we can kind of roll. All right, so the language, your gift ensures 800 calls a year are answered. So we're going to read the video and then we're going to read the prompt and then we'll read the video. So the prompt says, Dear Mathina, it's my name, not Jen, so Dear Mathina, DSVS is proud to operate one of the few remaining helplines in Montana that is answered by trained local volunteers. people in your community helping their neighbors. When you give during the fun run, you are giving safety right here at home. Your gift keeps our helpline open and ensures survivors in crisis can reach someone who understands and cares. You're not just funding a phone line, you're sustaining a local life-saving lifeline. This is our only major fundraiser of the year. Every gift helps us qualify for matching funds and reach more people. If you are considering giving a gift this year, please consider it now. Thank you. Donate today. How was that? How was my reading? So you got the reading. All right, let's go ahead. If the team's ready, we can go ahead and play the video. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna hop back into the chat in a second. Katie, thank you for being willing to share some work with us so that we have some thoughts and ideas to parse through as well. I think that it's good, and I think it'll also be strong with because I immediately start thinking about, because Katie, you did share the story yesterday.
Yes, that was the story I shared yesterday. Laura's story.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. The longer version.
The very long story.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I can see you sharing a story about Laura and Lexi right here in this, because Laura did call the line, right?
No. Well,
Oh.
she ended up calling the line eventually. Yeah, she was passed her information from law enforcement.
That's what it was. She got the information from law enforcement and then she called the line. Not that it has to be true. Matter of fact, I'm not even going to ask you any questions. I'm just going to make up something, okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to make up a 30-second to 1 minute version of Laura's story that could be in this video, or even potentially a shorter version wrapped here. I mean, you could do a link to the longer version as well, but I like the idea of the video. So if we were to say, making this up, I'm making it up entirely. I'm just gonna make it 10 o'clock. Okay. It was 10 p.m. on a Thursday evening. It started that day like any other. Pick Lexi, 6 years old, up from, somebody time me. I don't know. Somebody time me to make sure. See, I'm start over and somebody time me. Okay, y'all ready? I'll give y'all a second to get your timers out. All right, I'm starting now. It was 10 p.m. on a regular Thursday. It started the same as any other. Pick Lexi up, and at 6 years old, swim class was the best part of the day. But by 10 p.m. that night, I had to make a phone call to the police. And by 10:22, I was on the phone with DVSV. 15 years broken down to 15 minutes that completely transformed the life of me and my child. I never thought I'd be somebody who needed to talk to a stranger in the middle of the night in order to feel safe. And that journey was only just beginning. How long was that? How long was that?
I didn't time it, but I think like 30, 40 seconds.
Okay.
So people saying 45. That's great. I love that.
Yep. And this is because with something that's short, you just want an introduction. You just want to pull them in. And it's like, well, what did DVSV, you know what I'm saying? What did they do? And then you've got, this is what happens, the whole piece that you've written. So I've never experienced something not being revitalized in a way by a story.
Beautiful. I love it. Thank you.
Of course. Literally my happy place. All right. I enjoy this part of our work, really getting to the other side. Okay. Did we have anybody else raise their hand? Is there anything we need to lift up from the chat? Talking to the team. I'm trying to scan. It looks like somebody had to leave early. Bye.
We haven't had anybody else raise their hand, although definitely do encourage folks to be brave volunteers so they can workshop stories. Carolyn West did share a link to a video that she worked on with Story Center if we want to take a look at that. And it also looks like Allison just volunteered to workshop her story. So I don't know what you want to do first with
Yay.
Ina, but
Well, let's go to Allison because I'm sure the team probably needs time to thank you to rev up the video and check in with that. So let's pull Allison up. And then is it Miriam? Is it Miriam? Raise their hand. Yay. Okay, well, I'm home. I'm glad you're home safe. Okay. And then we can do the video if it matches our timing. And then we can do a little bit of a breather. Okay. That good, team? Okay, y'all let me know. All right, Allison. Hi, friend.
Hi there. I'm with the coalition in Kentucky, Zero V, and I just pulled up a story from our bank that I had put together a while back without like a specific purpose when I interviewed her, but we used it for a policy document, and it's a really short version, so I just lengthened it out a little bit and tried to add some more details. So here it goes. Joy entered Zero V's housing program after escaping from an abusive partner who trapped her in her apartment and kept her locked in the bedroom for days at a time. It got to the point where my hair was so matted, it was nothing for me to be trapped in this room, and my face was just black and blue, Joy recalls. I was literally a punching bag. One day, her abusive partner decided she would go with him on an errand. When they pulled into the driveway of someone's home, he left her in his car while he met with people inside. Something in her screamed that she needed to run, so she did. She found a hiding spot under a stranger's porch and knelt there for hours in the dark, muscles cramping from making herself so small for so long before feeling safe enough to call the police for help. The police connected Joy to her local domestic violence program, which then connected her to Zero V's housing program. With her housing and basic needs taken care of, Joy had the time and space to heal from the abuse inflicted upon her and started rebuilding her life. While in the program, she was able to secure employment, get her driver's license back, buy a car, enroll in school, and provide stability and security for her children. Your support of Zero V's housing program makes stories like Joy's possible. Donate today to give survivors time and space they need to heal and create a safer, brighter future for themselves and their children.
Try not to be loud with it because some people are like, no, ma'am, don't.
Thank you.
That was so good. And you say you just added some additional to it?
Yes, I added some, sort of sensory description, and then the call to action at the end and maybe some other stuff in there.
Yes, I would like that. Now let me hear that call to action again.
Your support of Zero V's housing program makes stories like Joy's possible. Donate today to give survivors more time and space to heal and create a safer, brighter future for themselves and their children.
Claire asked for a housing program. There you go. Your support. And when you're doing particular and this is for everyone, of course, when you're doing particular campaigns, like Amy mentioned, we're getting ready for our 50th anniversary, so on and so forth. If you were doing something in particular, building a new shelter, building out a clothing closet, starting a ice cream business that the survivors can work in, whatever. You can refine your call to action to a particular activity even. So that is super, super, super cool. And I really, really enjoyed it. And depending on how you share it, like the next time you share it in an audible format, slow it down and let it breathe in spaces. Like we talked when you said there was no hair could be matted. It was fast, and I know you're just reading, right? So I didn't, and I was like, my brain was like, wait a minute, did you just hair matted? What? That there comes times when we're sharing our stories that we have to let them breathe. Even when we're writing it. Like there's a full movement on stylized writing. So like if you're doing something for a blog post, newsletter, what have you, the enter button is gotten way more power over the last several years, where you're actually giving it some room and you like enter so that it sits there in the space by itself. You do the same thing when you're speaking and when you're curating things on video and other things like that. But I love the detail and pieces that you started adding in there. It's really, really, really good. And it has its strongness to it because I can see certain things. Yeah, even the running and hiding on the porch, so on and so forth. When we tell stories, if it's possible, I know when it's not ours, it lands differently. But also when you do the story, if it's possible to do it in first person at any point, definitely try that. Definitely try that. It always adds another level to the story. You can always say, "This is Joy," right? Something like that. Or this is how Joy shared the story with me. Because I think in Allison, in yours, you say Joy recalls or something like that. Whenever a narrative is offered in first person, it always pulls people in further because then we're not processing the disconnect from the speaker or what have you. So just a couple of things of reframe. So
Yeah, thank you so much. And when you say tell it in first person, because I always get a little weird. I used to be a reporter, so like getting over that hump of objectivity, is kind of difficult for me. But so you just said like if I was going to tell it in first person, then say this is how Joy related it to me, and then jump in and with I.
or even at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, it's super strong when you do it at the end. And I understand. I studied journalism, and so you know how hard it is for me to not start things with a quote. It's insane. So I definitely understand. Putting it at the end. So if you could have started with, it wasn't unusual for me to spend hours, sometimes days, locked in my room. My hair would be matted, and go same story. And at the end of that, you can say, if like say you were saying this you were doing it, or let's say I'm doing it. At the end of me delivering that, I would say, my name is Mathina, and what you just heard is Joy's story. So you honor who is the person with the lived experience by introducing and letting them claim their story. And I like to do it at the end because it just brings it all the way in for a person. Like I've pulled you all the way into the story. And remember, I may stand as one, but I'm carrying the voices of 10,000 plus. And so it kind of does it that way. How does that land, Allison?
Yeah, that sounds really good. Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Feel free to drop in the chat. Okay, team, where are we going next? There's a lot of stuff in the chat and I'm not reading it. Y'all gonna tell me what
No worries, Mathina. We do have a couple more volunteers lined up. I also wanted to note that we had a question in the Q&A pod from somebody who shared that their story is personal. They're not really wanting to volunteer right now, but wondered about emailing it later for feedback. And I wanted to float that by you before we committed one way or another. So.
Okay. We'll do what we can. We'll figure something out, right? We'll do what we can. I know this is the last institute and we're wrapping things up. Don't no one cry. I'm gonna do enough of that off camera, okay? But we'll do what we can to offer you that level of support, okay? Alrighty. Grandma Moselle. This is Carolyn's video. Is that what this is? Okay. Carolyn, are you here? Okay. All right. Okay, we might have questions. All right, let's go ahead.
Precious Lord, take my hand. I am the great-granddaughter and granddaughter of sharecroppers. They were proud and hardworking people who planted and harvested rows and rows of cotton in the rich Arkansas soil. They were sustained by their faith and their family. I'm the granddaughter of Moselle Stevenson. Gospel music, Mahalia Jackson, Precious Lord, Take My Hand. Grandma Moselle hummed softly as she stirred her big pot of collard greens, sweet potato pies cooling on the counter, big fancy hats that the church mothers call Sunday crowns. Me in my patent leather shoes, holding Grandma's hand as we went to church. Grandma left Arkansas on a segregated railroad car and moved to St. Louis. She grew rows and rows of roses in our stately Victorian home that was more than 100 years old. In me, she cultivated a fierce independence and a deep desire for knowledge. She was my superhero and protector. She was strong. She ended every conversation with, "Be sweet, baby." During the week, she worked at a hospital, transporting patients and helping in the operating recovery room. I wanted to help people too. I wanted to teach my grandpa George to read and write. I wanted to understand why he was so sad and why being a black man in America made him so angry, that he hurt Grandma Moselle, my mother, and me. I left the old Victorian house in St. Louis to go to school. Then the call came. It was cancer. The last night, friends and 3 generations of family members crowded into her bedroom. In the closet, her big fancy hats. I held her hand. She quietly passed with grace and dignity as she had lived. There was a whirlwind of activity as we prepared for her homegoing services. Grandma wore a white suit and a white hat. Her casket was light heavenly blue. Gospel music, Mahalia Jackson, Precious Lord, Take My Hand. I'm tired, I'm weak, I'm alone. Through the storm, through the night, lead me to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. We sang and we sang. At home, a big pot of collard greens on the stove, sweet potato pies cooling on the counter. Now I'm a university professor. I plant and harvest ideals and books. I write about domestic violence, sexual assault, and intergenerational trauma. I try to understand how my grandma Moselle was so resilient and why my grandpa George was so sad. I stay grounded. I'm the great-granddaughter and granddaughter of sharecroppers.
All right. Yeah, we're certainly all together in the chat, having the same experience. I'm with you all, right, in the chat. Oh, that felt like home memory. Oh, it's good. That's good.
So I use it more like for introductions to keynotes, or if I'm giving a training, I use that to help people understand how I got to doing this work.
You're on camera. I like seeing people. Sorry. This is the first person I get to see. Hi.
So that was created by, we worked with Story Center to be able to create that. And it was just a project that faculty at the University of Washington worked on. And I just found it very helpful with my work. I use it on my website. I use it as I move more into doing documentary film work. So I've been working like with Warner Brothers. I worked with on the Chris Brown documentary, on one of the Diddy documentaries. I worked with Red Table Talk for a while as well, doing domestic violence work because I'm a clinical psychologist by training. And so it's designed to be very short and compact and give a lot of information. So that's how I've kind of played around with storytelling in my own work.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing that. I think one of the things that I love, even as I sat here watching it, was the cadence and the rhythm and the moments where music came in and where it did. See, y'all about to geek out just a little bit. Give me a second, right? The moments where the music came in and where it flowed out. And there were moments where I even thought you were going to use some methods of repetition because there was yeah. And I actually wanted a little bit more of it. I was like,
they're designed to be just 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah. I understand. There was a moment where you were bringing back the music that y'all were listening to as we laid Grandma Moselle to rest, and I was like, oh, I wanted to hear some of those other pieces, kind of rhythm in there, and I get exactly what you're saying. So it was done really, really strongly and beautifully, and those are the things that I really enjoyed about it. And even as I think about how you're, as you use the video, yes, for keynotes, I think about the keynote messaging as well and how you can pull some of the components from the video into the keynote to create that rhythm of repetition. And y'all know repetition is the best tool in learning, by the way. Y'all, how many times have I repeated certain things in the last 2 days? So those things can kind of sit there and help us navigate the journey from beginning to end. So yeah, I loved each of those components that you brought into that. So thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for sharing, Grandma Moselle.
Yeah, and thank you so much for the organization for publishing my research and helping me get those technical guidance reports out years ago. And it's just been a pleasure and an honor to work with all of you. Thanks a lot, Patty, and everybody on the team. Appreciate y'all.
Yay! So that was good. Thank you so much. Okay, all right. We should have saved yours for the end so we could go on a break on it. We could go to break on it. But I think we have at least one more, right? Do we have one more person wanting to share? That's what y'all been sitting on. Y'all just like, oh, we don't want to share it. And then y'all come in here and y'all give me all this goody, yummy stuff. I really appreciate every single person who shared and everyone who's willing to share. And it's like, I'm still working on it. Thank you so much for that. Yes. Oh, I love that. Love that. All right. Breaking up. Do we have anyone else in queue?
Yes. I believe that the next volunteer is Miriam, and after that, Adriana. So yeah, Miriam, it looks like it said you are wanting to text yours in the chat. You can feel free to do that, or we can invite you to unmute and share aloud.
Okay. And Miriam, if you I knew somebody was gonna say, Adriana, you sure can. Come on now, Adriana. That was professionally supported there. StoryCorps, come on, StoryCorps. I don't know why my camera keeps wanting to move. It was StoryCorps, of course. We can do it. All right. It looks like Miriam wants to text in the chat, which is fine. Once that pulls up, we will jump into Miriam's story piece. Adriana, come on up. Come on in the room. Come on in the room. We'll your audio. Okay. All right. No stress. Right. Well, as you work with dropping yours in the chat, we're gonna bring Adriana up. Everyone, give Adriana a round of applause. Let's see those emojis like flow up there. We're ready for you. And tell me if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, please.
Okay, I'm ready. I I guess I have to preface it with this. This is by far probably okay, hold on. I wrote this actually I think last year, and I want to add things like a lot of the things that you mentioned this time around. I'm kind of struggling where and I can make it more intimate. Okay, let me put it that way, and then I can say the story. And I wrote this when I was a sexual assault advocate.
Okay.
When 21-year-old Mia first came to Community Solutions, the Solutions to Violence program, she carried a heavy silence. For nearly a decade, she had endured sexual abuse from her stepfather, beginning when she was just 11. Isolated from the outside world, homeschooled by her abuser through most of high school, Mia had few friends and no safe place to turn. Out of fear of destroying her family and wanting to protect them from pain, she kept the abuse to herself. By the time she was referred to us by the local police department, Mia was guarded, angry, and fiercely resistant to being called a victim. She wanted nothing more than for the process to be over. No retelling, no digging into the past. Still, her advocate stayed by her side, patiently creating space for trust to grow. Slowly, through steady peer counseling sessions, Mia began to open up. Together, they explored the realities of PTSD, the foundations of healthy relationships, and the truth that what happened to her was never her fault. More than a year later, Mia's transformation is striking. She now speaks her story aloud, proudly and without fear, sharing it even in court. She graduated from cosmetology school, thriving in her new hairstyling career. She's in a loving relationship. Her laughter is genuine, and every visit with her advocate is met with a warm smile. I learned to tell my story in trial and not be afraid, Mia says. I learned that I am a survivor, not a victim. That distinction means everything to her. Victim felt like the trauma had won, but survivor means she has. When asked about the program, Mia shares, my advocate empowered me to testify and made sure I never had to do it alone. She helped my whole family, turning something terrible into an opportunity for us to grow closer. I have a better relationship with my mom now because I've learned how to communicate. Her advocate remembers the day the verdict came in, guilty on all counts. The courtroom was filled with Mia's family, united in support. Her last words to the advocate were, I don't have to be afraid ever again. Thank you. Mia's resilience is nothing short of extraordinary. She survived years of abuse that could have broken her spirit. Yet she chose love over fear, hope over despair. Her journey is a reminder that with support, courage, and community, even the deepest wounds can begin to heal. Thank you.
Come on, and you did excellent. Look at those hearts. Look at those hearts flowing in. Look at those hearts moving.
Thank you.
That was so good. Okay. All right, let me do it this way. You said you wanted to add components to certain parts, so you weren't sure where to do. What questions do you have related to that? And I'm loving how the chat is just like giving you a warm hug.
Thank you so much. So I do feel so the story is sorry, so let me I guess give you a background. Our agency does like transformation Tuesdays or story Tuesday, something like that. But now we want to bring, so our agency is multi-level, right? Like not just DVSAHT, it's also healthcare. So there's all these things, but now we want to bring storytelling just in Solutions to Violence, which is just SADV and HT. So now with that, and I want to use this story, I want to make it a little bit maybe less about the advocate and a little bit more about, you know, Mia or the client. And also, I know I have to, I want to insert, you know, as we're going through this training, I'm recalling, and I think it was a video shared early on about the vegetables. So a lot of the abuse happened. Also, he would take her to, I'm oversharing, but he would take her to work and they would do cleaning. a lot of cleaning. So she had like a trigger with these cleaning things that she always had to buy, like different, like it was always when I would support her with buying things, she was like, no, not this, not that, you know? So that was very intimate. And I just recall that, like, you know what, you know, a lot of the financial support we provided was to help her buy different things that weren't triggering for her. And also, I don't think I have an ask, and this would probably be for funders. Yeah.
Yep. You already, I love this because it highlights how you're already seeing the framework in action. He was like, oh, I need a call to action. And that's exactly what we want. When you don't have me sitting here walking through it with you, right? I want you to be able to think about what else a story or messaging needs to make it a story, and to make it a story with impact, right? So thank you. So here's a couple of things I would recommend. So yes, absolutely, a call to action in the end. If you're going to want to incorporate with everything you have the cleaning supplies piece, then I would actually start in that moment with that thing. What do I mean by that? So similar to the grocery store example, where you say you get a line and then that line kind of brings you into that part of the story. You can actually start with something random. I don't remember how old Mia was then. I know you said that you started at 11, but I know she was old enough to graduate, to complete her cosmetology program.
So yeah, so it was through probably when she was 18, 19.
18, 19. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you can play on it, meaning you can use it in a couple of different ways. So for example, if you said, I know most people who were standing in the grocery line that day probably thought that Mia was a spoiled and frustrated teenager, typically who doesn't like cleaning. As she immediately pushed away the hand of the advocate, you can include that or not, I know you say you want to move away from it, but as she immediately pushed away the Clorox, frustrated and angered and walking away, it was through that moment that we recognized how deeply the trauma showed up. It wasn't about not wanting to clean. It was about all the years she spent cleaning with her abuser by her side, using the very same products that now in a different place, and you can say in a different place, depending on how much time you have, or you can say now standing and working towards survivorship, right? You get what I'm saying? Does that help?
Oh yeah, no, that was great. Thank you so much.
So you can actually anchor it there, and then tell a little bit. So depending on how long you want the story to be, then you can give a few other the components that you already gave us. Whenever we're telling stories, again, and I say this to everybody that I work with in any kind of coaching capacity around this. Again, we have lived decades upon decades usually. And so there are always several aspects or nuances that can tie into a moment or an experience. And since we don't necessarily have time or even the space for all of that to happen, then we might want to take a look at still finding a moment to anchor our audience in, to pull them in and make that connection as we then expand our story out from that moment. And so that's what, using the grocery aisle component could actually do in the story. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that was great. I wasn't sure how to incorporate that because I've been thinking about it since yesterday, and I'm like, oh God, I have no idea, but you kind of just answered that. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. You are welcome. So I think we have about 5 or 7 minutes left. Are we ready for Miriam?
Yeah, Miriam shared in the Q&A pod. And then Miriam, we're gonna invite you to come off mute if you want to work on your story with Mathina.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, and I see a couple of questions in there. Let me read what Miriam shared in the pod, and then we can move, and then we can offer feedback. And then we're going to a break. So if you're like, but my West Coast people, I got you. We are going to take a break. Okay. So let's take a look. So healing the heart, strengthening the whole self. After her divorce, Mariam discovered the silence of an empty home can be deafening. She founded Care to Elevate Space to give Muslim men and women a place to heal, launching a 6-week grief recovery program that helps them move from heartbreak to hope, as well as gaining knowledge to cycling into toxic relationships can be avoided. But here's the struggle. Emotional healing takes more than just talking. Many participants arrive drained physically and mentally. Without strength in their bodies, the emotional work feels even heavier. That's why Care to Elevate Space is expanding its program to include guided at-home exercise sessions with daily WhatsApp reminders, curated beginner and intermediate routines, and a community cheering each other on. By strengthening both body and spirit, participants leave the program ready to step into a brighter chapter. Hold on. Your gift can turn survival into strength. Help us equip every participant with the tools to heal fully, heart, mind, and body. Donate now and help someone rise after divorce. We want to acknowledge, educate, and connect by creating safe spaces of healing as we progress with a stigma-free and compassionate community. Hold on, where's my clapper? Woo! Thank you for being willing to share and for kind of coming in. Mariam, do you have specific questions before I share any insider feedback that you would love me to kind of answer?
Yes, hi everyone. I'm sorry. I've had glitches. I don't know how to find things. I have been kind of working on this for a while, and it's just such a blessing that I have this opportunity to share it with you. I was thinking of this is kind of been revised several times, but I want your take on it as well. However, I was thinking about that moment that you're talking about, like the status of a woman when it changes from marriage to divorce. That's kind of like a moment that I could perhaps maybe hone in on versus this that I had, previously written, and I had to find it in my in my notes so I can copy paste it for you. But yeah, and if I do go that route, how would I do that? How would I do like the conflict, of course, is the grief cycle post divorce care. That's where Care to Elevate that space. That's where the work I do is. And most of the women basically are challenged when they make that shift from marriage to divorce. And the grief is so profound that their identity is crushed. They don't know who they are anymore. What are they doing? What's their purpose? And it's equated to death. So that's like the statistic you're talking about, right? It's equated to death. However, the story is the one that needs to be told to really make those connections. So that's where I'm having a bit of, thank you.
You got it. You got it. I firmly agree with you. So if I'm going to make some stuff up and you're going to fill it in with the truth, okay? And it could be your story or it could be somebody else's, right? Just adding a story to this. So let's say, okay, I'm gonna make it up. So people often talk about preparing for the grief of the loss of a loved one. Preparing for the grief of the loss of a loved one, whether it was because of an accident or an illness. We prepare ourselves, even in scripture texts, we understand what it looks like to prepare for someone who you love that has passed on. But what happens when you're preparing for the grief of someone who's still alive? Insert data, okay. Insert person's name, I'm use Mathina. Mathina spent 10 years in a process preparing for grief, but not really. And I'm going to introduce what life was like and then what happened in that divorce process. And then I'm going to anchor in the moment of divorce. And I'm going to put Mathina somewhere, right? So I'm going to put Mathina at the edge of a lake looking out, right? Trying to having that moment of realizing that what she's experiencing is grief of loss. The grief of loss of a loved one, Y'all with me? You with me so far, Mary? Okay, I see the heart in the chat. Okay. So yes, so anchor it in something like that. And then from there, after I've introduced that, then I can go right into what you've written here. After her divorce, I could say, Mathina, discover the silence of an empty home can be deafening. It ties right into the grief. And then it was your story. So then you found it, and then you kind of, and now talking about the services and programs makes more sense because I am now invested and interested.
Right. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. You're welcome. All right. Y'all were making me a little nervous there. All right. So let me answer this question. What is your thoughts of using the terms victim and survivor? I find using both are appropriate. Yeah, I am in the school of some of our peers in that I believe I use the language of victim for someone who's no longer with us and survivor for people who are, right? So if someone, I had a friend who I went to college with who was a victim of domestic violence, and I call that person a victim, right? For those who we work with that are still here, still living, still moving, still doing the things, and redesigning life after that experience, however long that experience was, I refer to them as survivors. So that's how I personally and professionally prefer to use those terms. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you all so much. Excuse me. I am super excited. I hope that was incredibly useful. Was that helpful for everyone to like hear those stories, get that feedback in action? Okay. Implemented the same language. Yeah. Yeah, that's how I feel after these many years. I find it to be most true. So nerve-wracking, but so helpful. You did excellent. You did excellent. Okay. So we have talked about why storytelling is important. We've talked about how to tell and frame your stories, and we've talked about how to use them effectively. That's everything we've just done in the first half of our day. And in the time we have left, you will start writing your story. Yay, Julia. All right, so we're going to take a brief break. We're going to do 10 minutes per request. We're going to take 10 minutes so you can stand, stretch, grab some water, and take a moment to reset. Because when we come back, we're going to close on diving into sustainable storytelling in your organization. And I'll share some growth work with you. All right, I know we're not back tomorrow or any other day. I know we're at the end, but we always have room for growth. Okay, so we're also going to take some time to really hone in on that. And as you are on your break or you've got some questions that have come up, feel free to drop those in the chat. When we come back, we're going to spend some time with that. So let's go ahead. Let's head into our break.
We hope you are enjoying the 2025 NRCDV Storytelling Institute. It's now time for a 10-minute break. Join us back here at 2:34. That's 2:34 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you back here in just a few moments. We hope you are enjoying your break. It's now time to return back to the session in progress. Please welcome back your facilitator, Mathina James Brightful.
Well, welcome back. I hope that break gave you everything you needed. You grabbed some lunch, snack, you're nibbling as we kind of go into the tail end of our session today. Because for those of you who want to center storytelling as a core value in your organization, I want you to drop a 5 in the chat. Drop a 5 in the chat. And if you're ready to bring this back to your team and to integrate storytelling as an essential part of your work, I'm seeing those 5. I love it. So we want to give you some practical tools and steps to help you carry this energy and this teaching and this work forward. And so we're talking about embedding a storytelling culture so that it becomes a natural and integrated part of how your organization operates and connects with others. Let's talk about this next slide, implementing practices and techniques in training, operations, and schedules. So we want to emphasize that embodying storytelling into your organization isn't just about gathering stories from clients or community members, and then you're done. Rather, it's about truly integrating storytelling into the culture of your organization, making it a value and that shows up in your operations, how you're training, who you're training, and the daily practices. So if you think about building and reviewing, like your staff training calendar for the year, ask yourself, where can we incorporate storytelling into our training, into our work? Consider how storytelling can be included even during your onboarding and hiring process. Let me give you an example of what I mean. During your hiring process, for example, tell the story about your organization's founding. Tell the story about an innovation that you recently that's recently happened within the organization. Ask for them to share with you information and stories about certain aspects that are relevant to the work. And train as often as possible, at least quarterly, to help your staff learn how to shape and share stories. And this is especially important as we prepare for some of our major awareness months, for example. October, we all know, DVAN. January, you have trafficking awareness and stalking. February, April, right? There are also those additional months gaining traction in our field. So if you know of any others, feel free to drop them in the chat. If you're doing work around in June for Pride, all of these moments are opportunities to bring storytelling into the work. So I want to encourage you to plan ahead, but don't wait. Don't wait 30 days before an awareness month to start thinking about the stories and the campaigns. Be intentional. Build them into your calendar early so you can thoughtfully identify which stories you want to center and tell or share, and which partners need to be involved, and certainly what resources you'll need to bring your messaging to life during that time. And in particular, those really key times. I think that's one of what ends up happening is we're doing it so much and we're like, oh yeah, it's coming. We know it's coming. Everybody knows it's coming. We'll get to it. And then you end up not having the space to really add those pieces in, okay? Again, if you have any questions about anything I'm sharing, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm happy to share ways and strategies that I've incorporated storytelling and onboarding and training in particular. So now that we know that we, of course, do this work 365, but our communities are often trained to think about this work during those specific awareness months and those certain key times of the year. And when you're building your staff and your team's capacity, consider incorporating a storytelling training schedule throughout the year. Now, this might look like those quarterly sessions or a series of lunch and learns designed to support staff in gathering and sharing stories more effectively. And you know, I want to share that these sessions can be informal and thus approachable, creating space for your staff to practice, to ask questions, and to build their comfort with storytelling. One of the benefits is that this training, for example, is going to be available on replay. So you can take the time to say, hey, we're going to do a lunch and learn. We'll do 45 minutes. This each of the days is segmented. So you have two modules of content that's broken into each portion of the day. And so you can, you get what I'm saying. So you can have an opportunity to do that. And so when you share this with your team and staff, hey friends, welcome, thanks for watching the replay. Then now you have those aspects and we can really make them shine through. And when I say staff and team, I don't just mean employees and consultants, right? I also mean your volunteers, your board members, and anyone who represents your organization's voice. All right. Okay. For those who have had questions about social media, we talked earlier about crafting posts that follow the framework for impactful storytelling. Okay, remember we looked at the charity water video, we looked at, a video, well, yeah, it was a video, but social media posts, and we looked at NRCDBs as well. Encourage whoever handles your marketing, whether that's an actual marketing team or the person who simply wears 18 million hats. I'm raising my hand. I was that person, and in many respects, I still am. So encourage that person to just work across departments to gather the stories and the content. You may be needing to talk to, if you've got, a frontline clinical team, the shelter team, or what have you. Consider having that person in the person who's in charge of marketing or social media, consider having them regularly pop into team or departmental meetings, because they're going to be listening. And if that person is you're going to be listening with a different ear. And that way it will help them hear directly from staff and gather those stories in real time. I do want you all, and I'm going to encourage you to do this. And if you don't have it up in front of you, feel free to pull it up or just follow along with me as I talk through this. But I want to encourage you to convert the framework that we share with you all into a series of question prompts, right? To really help your team gather the stories from each other and from our broader community. This approach, it keeps the ethics at the forefront by creating a thoughtful, intentional way to collect stories, especially when you're planning to share them on platforms like social media or any other public channels. And it really ensures that your messaging is not only compelling, it also is ethically aligned with your organization's values as well, your organization's values as well. Okay, y'all with me so far? When we talk, as you're hearing me kind of talk through staffing and onboarding, are we present to it still? Yes. Okay. Good. All right. So I'm seeing it in the chat. I know, because this is not the funnest part of the storytelling, but it is the fabric of the culture piece that you want, which makes collecting, gathering, and being dignified with the stories you gather something that happens more organically, is when we put it in this space. As we finalize the thoughts around this and my thoughts around this, and as I share with you all, and any questions that you have, again, feel free to start dropping those in the chat or on the questions channel. When we think about creating a sustainable storytelling culture, I want you to consider 3 elements. 3 elements. How many elements? Drop it in the chat. All right, I see 3s. I want you to consider 3 elements. That's your calendar, the channels, and the cadence. All right, let me break this down. For your calendar, in your workbook, you'll see a space to start outlining what needs to happen over the next 6 months, okay, for the year ahead. Use this to think strategically about when to plan stories and align them with any of your key events we just talked about, any of your campaigns, any of your awareness months, all those components. The second thing, when we talk about channels, channels are the different avenues you use to share your stories. We talked about a number of them during the last 2 days: social media, newsletters, website updates, board presentations, community events, all those things. Decide where you want to start and where you want to grow over time. Some of you are already, most of us are already doing something. Some of you might only be doing a newsletter or only doing social media, and you might want to add something more. Use this time to be intentional about where you want to start doing more to add those additional, to add stories in additional spaces. And then finally, your cadence, okay? Your cadence. This is it's the rhythm or the frequency of your sharing. Think of it as your organizational's chorus. How often you share stories, refresh them, revisit them, right? To stay consistent and engaging, that you'll share, review, adjust, and then you'll share again. And just like adding new verses to a song, you're going to be able to continue to build the vibrancy, and everyone will begin to get on the same page, join the chorus, sing the same songs. All right. So this structure helps ensure that storytelling stays alive and intentional throughout the year, not just during those special months. Okay. All right. I'm done with my music storytelling analogy. I do want to highlight the cultural roadmap, so that we can bring this all together and you can see the visual of what we're talking about as we build through the course of this. Okay. I said I was done. With the music analogy. Now, the culture roadmap, there's one on page 18 in your book, in your workbook, right? And I can say it really starts on page 18 because you'll notice that there's those, that the roadmap guides you through identifying your organization's current storytelling strengths and gaps. And then from there, it helps you plan what stories you already have. That's what we did yesterday, the bring, what stories you can highlight from partners or community. That was the borrow, okay? And then what stories you still need to intentionally develop, and that's the build. So once you've outlined these pieces, you can move into building your story bank, defining your channels, and then setting your cadence, all of which is just started to think through in the previous section that we just talked about. Okay. All right. And let me check in with the chat. See, look at that. Look at that. I've been taught that social media posts should be one of 3 things: education, gratitude, or ask. Would you recommend we use stories for some of those categories more than others, or all 3? All 3. It's why I love stories. They can be used for everything. If you think about human history, whenever we want to teach something, we use stories. When, I bought this series of books for my child. It's a series of, some of y'all might know it. It's called the Ninja Stories or something. And there's these little ninjas. She's also in martial arts, okay? Yeah. So these little ninjas that learn different lessons. And so the books all tell little stories about these ninjas. And you have the kind ninja, you have anxious or nervous ninja or whatever. And they're all learning these things. Stories in order to educate. Stories to teach gratitude and to show appreciation. And certainly stories to bring people in as you ask them for something. So those are really good, but I definitely recommend it. Okay. All right. So if you have any additional questions, please feel free. You're welcome. You're certainly welcome. Feel free to drop them in the chat. I think that would be important. All right. So the goal is to implement this roadmap that you're seeing here within the next 6 months. I gave y'all 6 months. I didn't say 30 days like I scared y'all yesterday with, okay? Because the sooner you start, the easier it will be to embed storytelling into your culture and your operations. I see y'all laughing at me. I'm all good with it. But and while you're sitting with this information fresh in your mind, it makes it easier to start really creating that roadmap and mapping out, okay, here's what I think we need to do. Here's who I think we need to get involved. And let me just put it down so I can revisit it in a timely cadence, okay? Because one thing we know for sure is that people lose momentum. The further we get away from this live training, the easier it is going to be to forget or to wonder, now what was I supposed to do next? All right? And I know I'm not by myself. So that's why we really built the culture roadmap, to help you truly embed that storytelling. And finally, I think that I want you to think about who needs to be part of the process. Your leadership, your board members, your staff, volunteers, partners. Use the workbook pages as tools to guide conversations in your staff training, supervision sessions, strategy decisions or sessions, really creating those opportunities for discussion. Talk to your board members, executive directors, your development team. I know sometimes it's really one person or it's really just the executive director. I know, just roll with it, okay? But talk to the staff, and you want to consider, who do you need to reach out to internally or through partners so that you can move this conversation and this work forward, right? Can you share stories during staff meetings or team meetings? Can you include it in storytelling in general in your next supervision conversation? If you didn't already plan on bringing this up in supervision, I'm telling you, bring it up in supervision. Talk about it. Talk about how you might bring this forward to your organization's leadership if you're with an organization. Okay. My hope is that your leadership is open and they're willing to engage in this work and allow it to take root in the organization. So take a look at your roadmap pages. You can even pull them out, use them directly in conversations. We hope that the roadmap, paired with everything you've learned, will help make the storytelling that true value and not just this one-time project where I spent 2 days talking about storytelling with a bunch of amazing humans from across the country. Okay. All right. At this time, I do want to pause. We haven't had a lot of questions this time around. If you want to ask a question, if you want to bring up any more of your stories, and you're like, I'm thinking about it, Mathan, I want to do it. I want to brave it. I want to share. Please, now is the time to do that so that we can support you even further. Okay. Then I can really take this time to clarify any questions you have, any communications, talk through any strategy if you're feeling nervous about bringing it to your organization. Okay. Thank you, Brecken, for dropping that in the chat. You all already know this by now, but I'm gonna say it again. Raise your hand if you want to come off mute and share, or use the chat tools that the team that we've provided and that the team is monitoring to bring the questions up. As a quick reminder, if folks are needing to leave early, please take the time to fill out the evaluation. It really does help us to refine, grow, and do something more, okay? Thank you, folks, for dropping the evaluation in the chat. Any questions? Of course. Allison, did you raise your hand and the team's going to bring you up?
Okay, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I just didn't know how to write this question without it being too long. But basically, you know how you have an experience, supporting somebody, or you've witnessed something, but it's not really your story. It's just you were, like part of that story. But then you want to share it. And so you go to share it, but then you wonder, well, I don't know who this, I never saw this person again. I don't have their contact information. Is it really ethical for me to share that? So how do you handle situations like that? Because I feel like people do that all the time, right? And they don't share any like personally identifying information, but it still kind of feels weird.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think you trust your gut instinct regarding that particular incident story, what have you. I mean, I spent a lot of time, many years doing prevention education work. And so I was constantly having folks come up to me and share their experiences over the years. And even to this day, like when I wrote my book many years ago, but when I wrote my book about educating teens around sexual violence, in it, I share a story about when I was first introduced at 19 to supporting someone who disclosed sexual abuse. And I changed all identifying information about the person so that you couldn't figure out who I was talking to, even if you may have known us back then, so to speak. However, it's part of my experience, right? Because you have an experience in your role and in your work. And so it is part of your journey and experience. So I feel very comfortable naming it and sharing it, but I wouldn't if I was saying anything that I feel like could make this could make somebody go, oh, I know who you're talking about, right? I even do that with my friends, like like my best friends. I have a good friend who had a domestic violence incident after we graduated from college and while I was working in the domestic violence field. And we had a conversation about it. I very much was like, hey, talk to me about how you feel about this. Because I was getting ready to do a youth, a 6-week youth group on healthy relationships. And I was like, I'm interested in sharing a bit of your story, so on and so forth. And she gave me permission to share her story. I still protect her identity in the story. But when I say this is a close friend of mine, I mean, there's only like 5 people who I've known for 20 years. But so it's kind of can be easy to identify her but she gave me permission to do that. And I still try and protect her identity as much as I can in sharing the story. So that's how I've handled it, to be as respectful as possible. And I've even had, like, when I remember distinctly, I was at a college. I spoke at the college during the summer program. I came back in the fall to speak to some students. One person who was there when I spoke in the summertime came up to me and said, thank you for what you shared. I actually ended a really unhealthy relationship as a result of that conversation. And when I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for sharing. Da, da, da. I may say it, but I'm gonna say it broad. For example, hey, I've gone to several conferences and sometimes you all tell me that the information you hear makes an impact, blah, 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 blah. So I always make it relevant to whatever I'm talking about. So hopefully that helps. Yes. Oh, Joe, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Sorry that happened to you. Yeah, that's incredibly important. So important. Other questions? Yeah. Other questions. And I had a version of this happen differently. I remember being really touched by an advocate sharing what ended up being their personal story at a conference that I attended. And as I came back, insert 10, 15 years, and I was sharing as the keynote at a conference in our field. And I talked about how important like that person's sharing their story was and so on and so forth. And I talked about it. And at the end, the person was in the audience. So somebody else grabbed my hand. I was like, I think you're talking about so-and-so. And they like pulled me over. And I was like, well, what's there? I was like, and we were trying to figure out what event it was. And I was like, yeah. What's that event? It was like, it's me. And so we had this whole like moment of hugging and being excited. And me being able to say to this person after all these years, how impactful their story was. Because as you can hear, I'm still mentioning it and sharing it from the stage, but still enough of it to protect that person. But they, of course, was like, that's me. So you can have it happen a couple of different ways. And that's, of course, the most ideal outcome versus something like what what Jill just shared. Absolutely. Oh, thank you, Lou. Share feedback, guidance. Either way, I'm so blessed to have had this experience. Okay, Kayla, sorry. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing. Absolutely. So yeah, we are definitely resharing the evaluation link. We are of the mind we don't hold folks. If you need to run off, run off. Find me on LinkedIn. Tell me how you enjoyed this experience and what you learned. I really always appreciate it. I know some of you all started following me after yesterday, so thank you. I think I followed everyone back. So I appreciate you all for that. I truly, truly do. Thank you so much. Thanks so much. All right, so I feel like I just saw my computer just decide to do a weird thing again. I feel like I just saw something show up in the chat. Okay, how can we avoid telling a story and the perpetrator recognizes it and files charges, even if these might be unsubstantiated or maybe starts harassing our organization? That's interesting. So in the scenario that you're naming, the story you're telling, the perpetrator might be able to identify themselves in the story and then press so I think what I'm trying to okay, I'm tracking. Because I'm like, man, if they're a perpetrator, how are they gonna be like, oh, that's me? And I get what you're saying, because like the arrogance of many perpetrators. And then they may not have faced any actual repercussions. You see me looking up in the air because this thing is always doing this. I'm actually looking up in the air because I'm processing. See you all. Thank you all for being here. I'm processing and thinking out loud. So my gut reaction, and I've actually had something similar happen, but not that the perpetrator went and tried to file charges. The perpetrator came to the public space and tried to intimidate one of the survivors while they were sharing. And so we had to address it. What comes up for me is you can do the same thing that you would for a survivor to the perpetrator, meaning you can adjust identifying information about the perpetrator as you shared the story, the same way you kind of would for the survivor in the story or even the victim in the story. But people who are seeking to cause harm find ways to cause the harm. So if they are just belligerent and desire to find ways to harass, then they're going to find and seek those ways. But first, I say one, you could camouflage or redirect or readjust how you share who the perpetrator is and their identifying information. The other thing that I'm thinking about is I would encourage you to think through even hold on, something just made me lose my train of thought. Come on, come back. I just looked at what you said. Oh, harassing your organization came back to me. Okay. So, and then the other thing is talking through safety concerns, especially if it's a live event, any of those things where the perpetrator might be able to gain access. So really having a plan for how to handle potential opportunities or moments like that. If it's something online, of course, you can usually block someone from commenting on something. So those are the initial things that come to mind. And hopefully that gives you some level of support or help and kind of gives us an avenue to take. I feel like I just saw another question in the chat. Brecken, did I miss any questions?
Not any questions. We are getting some really lovely reflections from folks who are needing to hop off. Josephine said, I have to hop off, but I don't want to. I still look forward to the recordings. Glad I was able to be part of this last offering and looking forward to the comeback. And Tatiana said, I know some survivors going public and they might face consequences in family court. For example, I also learned that psychological evaluators accused some of them of not acting in the best interests of the children if they post anything about their stories.
Yeah, if somebody has an active case or something going on, I often advise them not to share or speak on their experience publicly for that very reason. I know people who are actively going, especially if there's a custody dispute. who are going through those things now. And so having to play everything really, really close to the chest so that we keep as much opportunities for ammunition out of the way as possible. Yeah. And to actively be in your situation and sharing publicly is challenging for most people. And so I would definitely recommend a pullback if possible so that they're actually not doing that. And when they do decide to share, it's from a safer and healthier place. Yeah. Of course, you're welcome. You're welcome. Any other questions? I don't see anything else in the Q&A.
Oh, looks like Allison just shared a question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm collecting stories without a specific purpose, just to have those stories in our bank. I tell folks that we may use the story in different ways depending on what comes up and give them some examples. Does this make sense to you, or would you have advice for doing it differently?
Yeah, so I would say absolutely, it definitely makes sense. I would say you want to let people know how it may be used different ways and give them examples. That's all great. At the point, I would always recommend if you have a way of tracking whose story belongs to whom, and there comes a point where you want to get ready to share it. And if it's been a while, meaning they didn't say, sure, you can use my story yesterday, and then you post it a week later, but rather maybe it's been a few months, let alone maybe years, but certainly maybe it's been a few months, revisiting, right? That's just, while the story might be great and you got permission initially, the highest level of ethics, integrity, and holding the dignity of their humanity in place to Mathina means that you revisit, you check back in with them, and you name, right? That, hey, we talked X number of time ago, you shared da-da-da, we're interested in da-da-da with it. We know you said it was okay at that time. We want to make sure that it still is okay, because we're going to insert ways that you're going to use it. So I definitely want you to have some level of a recheck and a check back in the process, in the process before you share the story. The other thought, and then I'll stop talking. The other thought I have about it is, and as you're organize the bank itself, remember how we talked about the indexing? So organize the bank itself so that you can quickly know what the story itself is in reference to or aligned to, right? So you want to create opportunities to do that. Yeah. Of course. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful. Yes, absolutely. Yay, thank you so much. Let me share some of our closing kind of thoughts before we lose everyone. Because I do like to talk about what we've explored in this last half of the day. So we talked about how to build a sustainable culture of storytelling in your organization, not just as a tool, but as a core value, right? As a core value that shapes how we connect, inspire, and lead. And so you've learned how to embed storytelling into training, operations, community engagement, and so much more, and how to help our teams carry these stories forward ethically and powerfully. So I want to thank you all for leaning in, for practicing bravely, and for envisioning what's possible. Now you're more equipped to bring this work back and to truly make storytelling part of the heart of your mission. And I do want us to celebrate that. So I'm really excited that you all have made the most out of this experience. I do want you to give yourselves a round of applause, please. All right, and on behalf of myself and the entire team at NRCDV, I want to say thank you, and that, when we created this institute, we wanted to bring forward what we knew would truly support you in your work, and the opportunity to bring it to life in this way is beyond remarkable. Please take a moment to complete the evaluation. Let us know how it worked for you. There's a QR code that's going to be on your screen in 2.5 seconds that you can scan, and we've been dropping the link in the chat. We want to encourage you to please access the resources that NRCDV has for you. This recording will be added to that resource library. Don't forget to do your homework. And if you're unclear with the homework, Mathana's word is growth work, is for today, it is to update that channels and cadence document where you're looking at the next 6 months and putting just some thoughts and ideas that you can convert into a plan. All right. So be intentional, schedule some time to decompress, to reflect, and to think strategically about how you use what you learned today. Okay. All right. So I did want to say that please keep your workbooks. There is a wealth of resources just right there in the workbook. And if you'd like to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn. You just type my name in and I'm right there on most of social media platforms. Thank you for those who've already connected with me. I deeply appreciate that. And if you feel moved and you would like to write a recommendation on how I facilitated this training, I'd be honored. Please let me know. Send me a LinkedIn request. I'll approve you, and then I'll be happy to receive that feedback from you. So thank you for showing up. Muchas gracias. I deeply appreciate you all for being present and honoring the experience that we've had together. Okay. Brecken, is there anything else that we need to pull up from the chat?
There has just been a lot of love, a lot of really lovely reflections. Margaret shared, thank you so much for the inspiration to live my story and to share it with confidence. Toby shared, thank you for this. I found it engaging and practical. Tim said, congratulations on a great presentation. So there's just been a lot of love and gratitude for this incredible presentation that you've done. Thank you, Mathina.
Of course. Thank you, team. Thank you, everyone, the entire team. There's a group, there's like 6 or 7 people behind the scenes. You all haven't seen their faces. In addition to hearing, for example, Brecken's voice. So our producer and our folks working the chat, and make sure you have all the links, and the entire leadership team and implementation team at NRCDV. Thank you all so deeply for helping me realize a dream and access an opportunity. Thank you. So with that being said, I feel like we're now at the time where we're going to put some music on. We're going to hang out because it's super early. We had more time allotted. If you had any additional questions, if you wanted me to talk through a story or scenario with you, then we have some additional time. So we're going to hang for a few minutes. We'll put music on. Just raise your hand or drop your question in the chat, and we'll be here to support. Team, my screen has decided that it doesn't want to turn back on, so I can't see anything. So feel free to just say Mathina and then tell me whatever. I'll let y'all know when it comes back up, but it's decided it's had enough.
Thanks for joining us at the 2025 Storytelling Institute, brought to you by the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence, our partners and sponsors. We look forward to having you in our audience again for future events and training. Join us online at www.nrcdv.org. That's www.nrcdv.org for updates. Before you leave, please complete the evaluation survey. Your feedback is critical to the success of this program. As you complete your survey, feel free to leave the session. Have a great day and a fabulous weekend. We thank you.